At a family holiday gathering, my husband raised a toast to our life ahead, while I quietly absorbed the details from the forwarded text I had just seen. The message had arrived 2 minutes earlier, an accidental relay from his phone to the iPad I'd set on the kitchen island to keep the apple pie timer in view, forwarded from Sabrina Cherry Blossom. Can't wait for our first Christmas morning together. I already miss waking up beside you. I read it twice, the way you reread an obituary when the name is too familiar. Then his voice rang out above the cousin chatter. To the next chapter? Glasses lifted like small, glittering sails. My own remained on the counter. I was afraid the tremor in my wrist would spill something I couldn't afford to stain. We were hosting, which meant every surface in my childhood home bore evidence of seasonal cheer. Peppermint candles, Mom's ceramic reindeer, the heirloom tablecloth now dotted with mulled wine rings. 43 people, grandparents, siblings, neighbors, babies, tracked snow across pine floors while Mariah Carey hit notes only dogs could hear. Somewhere between the second and third course, I'd volunteered to check the pies so no one would witness the moment my marriage combusted in 160 characters. I slipped the iPad face down beside the flour tin and returned to the dining room. Luke stood at the head of the table, cheeks flushed from Bordeaux and fireplace heat. His dark hair had grown longer since Thanksgiving, curling behind his ears the way I used to twirl around my finger while we watched late-night reruns. He looked like the man I married, only taller, as if deceit added inches. To my beautiful wife, he continued, glass angled toward me, who makes every day feel like a holiday. A chorus of us rippled through the room. Mom beamed. Aunt Linda wiped a tear. I managed a smile that felt plastic and brittle, the kind that snaps under weight. He drank. I counted the seconds the wine touched his lips. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, wondering how many other mouths had grazed that mouth in the past month. When he set the glass down, I saw the faintest smudge of Merlot on the rim and pictured Sabrina's lipstick mirroring it. The floor tilted. I pressed my palms to the tablecloth to study the world. Pie, I announced too loudly. Anyone ready for pie? A diversion, sweet and American. In the kitchen, I gripped the counter's edge until knuckles blanched. The iPad glowed expectantly. I tapped the message thread open. Luke to Sabrina. Wish I were waking up with you tomorrow. Family circus is exhausting. Sabrina. You're sweet to endure it for her. Luke, one more night, then freedom, freedom. The word echoed like a slamming door. We had discussed freedom once, years ago, on a rattling train through Portugal. We'd agreed monogamy was a choice we kept choosing, a daily passport stamp. Apparently, he'd found another port of entry. I heard Luke's footsteps cross the hall, heard him ask if I needed help. I swiped the screen dark and slid the device beneath a dish towel. Just carving, I said, brandishing a knife that caught the pendant light. He paused in the doorway, smile faltering as if the steel glint warned him something had shifted. You okay, babe? Perfect, I lied, and began to quarter the pie with surgical precision. We carried desserts out together. Picture-perfect couple. He with the whipped cream bowl, I with the steaming spiced apples. Relatives applauded. I bowed, a performer accepting accolades for a role I no longer wanted. Later, while cousins organized a white elephant exchange, I escaped to the back porch. Snow whispered against cedar planks. Breath clouded in front of me like ghost confessions. I dialed my best friend Jay. You're sure it wasn't a joke? She asked after I recounted the texts, unless jokes now include plans for Christmas morning spooning. Jay exhaled a string of curses that fogged her own phone. What do you need? Witness, I said. And bail money. If I commit, you'll tide homicide. She promised both, then added, document everything before you confront him. Family chaos is not the courtroom you want. I hung up as the porch door creaked. Luke stepped out, coatless, rubbing arms. You'll freeze, he scolded, wrapping me in a hug that once felt like home. Now it felt like trespass. I needed air, I said. Too much wine? Something like that. He studied my face, concern authentic enough to make me doubt the evidence. Maybe I'd hallucinated. Maybe Sabrina was a coworker with boundary issues. Maybe his pocket buzzed. He glanced at the screen, thumbs moving before conscious thought. I watched the reflex, the tiny smile he tried to suppress. In that gesture, I saw years of untold stories rewriting themselves. Snowflakes landed on his lashes. He blinked, pocketed the phone. Ready to open gifts? Sure, I answered, thinking of knives sharper than steel. Inside, we gathered around the tree. Someone handed me a small box wrapped in silver paper. Luke's name on the tag. He winked. Open last. I obeyed, stacking other gifts on my lap. Hand-knit scarf, lavender lotion. A cookbook I'd never use. Finally, the silver box. I peeled tape slowly, buying time, buying breath. Inside lay a key, brass, antique, tied with red ribbon. To the lake house, Luke announced. I closed last week. Our forever weekend spot. Gasps, applause, more tears. Mom clasped her hands. A place for grandchildren. I stared at the key, imagining mornings on that dock, coffee steam curling toward loons. I also imagined Sabrina there, wrapped in our plaid blanket, sipping from the mug I'd labeled Mrs. I stood, box and key clenched. Thank you, I managed. I need water. In the kitchen, I found the iPad again, screen awake with fresh delivery. Sabrina, key in hand yet? Wish it were ours. I photographed the entire thread, uploaded it to a shared drive Jay and I owned, then wiped crumbs from the counter with mechanical calm. When I returned, Luke was distributing champagne for final toast. He raised his flute. To new doors opening. I stepped forward, voice steady as winter. And to honesty, I added, clinking his glass harder than necessary. A faint crack appeared in the crystal, a hairline only visible if you looked closely. He looked. We drank. Around us, families sang carols off-key, oblivious to the fracture spreading between us like ice on a late-season lake. I smiled, tasted metal, and began counting down the minutes until the holidays ended and the real season, reckoning, could begin.